Every year, there's always that one house you tend to marathon, or at the very least, think about all week after going to Halloween Horror Nights. In 2021, the house that was at the bottom of my radar ended up being that house. This is Beetlejuice at Halloween Horror Nights 30. Based on the 1988 horror comedy of the same name, Beetlejuice, which was directed by Tim Burton, is about a couple named Adam Maitland, played by Alec Baldwin, and Barbara Maitland, played by Janina Davis, who drowned in a river after crashing their car into a barn bridge. I just want to say that I hate this scene. Look, I get they need to die for the sake of the plot, but the fact that they survived the initial crash and only drowned because the dog walked off the wooden board is very annoying. Why didn't they just open the door and jump into the river when they had enough time? Let's just move on. The couple finds out they are ghosts and their house is sold to the Deets. They are informed by a caseworker that they must remain in their house for 125 years, and if they want the house to themselves, they must scare the Deets out. They get helped by a rule breaker named Beetlejuice, played by Michael Keaton, and for the sake of time, that's the plot of the movie. Beetlejuice, the haunted house, was planned for the Halloween Horror Nights 30th anniversary event. Originally taking place on September 10th to November 1st, 2020, the event would have featured 10 haunted houses and 5 scare zones. Due to things outside of the park's control, however, the event for that year was ultimately cancelled. With the park still being open to daytime guests, in the fall of 2020, Universal opened 2 houses, Universal Monsters The Bride of Frankenstein Lives and Revenge of the Tooth Fairy, along with a tribute store that featured the 2 houses throughout the rooms. A third property was also in the tribute store, Beetlejuice. This would foreshadow the last weekend of the event, where a Beetlejuice themed house would open to daytime guests. Fast forward to March of 2021, Universal would announce Halloween Horror Nights 30 for a second time, under the tagline 30 Years, 30 Fears. This announcement would also confirm that Beetlejuice would be returning for a second year, which is typically unheard of for Halloween Horror Nights. One unique feature due to Universal's massive Horror Nights budget is the ability to create 10 completely new houses every year. However, in this case, reusing Beetlejuice was a good thing, because a lot of people, including myself, didn't get to experience Beetlejuice in the other 2 2020 daytime houses. The 2021 event was a full-scale Halloween Horror Nights event which featured Jack the Clown as the icon. Personally, I think he was the highlight of Halloween Horror Nights 30 outside of Beetlejuice, but we'll go more in depth about that later on. Now that we have established why Beetlejuice was recycled for Halloween Horror Nights 2021, let's analyze the entire house of Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice was located in the Parade House in the now defunct Woody Woodpecker Kids Zone area of the park. Due to the location of the Parade Warehouse, guests would be required to walk a bit to get to the actual house. Once approaching the house, guests would be treated to a mural of Beetlejuice in snake form, Beetlejuice himself, and a sandworm. Before we entered the house, some footage may not be the best because I'm pretty sure this was before Universal allowed media to officially film the houses during opening weekend. Due to this, I will also be using footage from 2020 and 2021. Let's go through the house. When guests enter the house, they're immediately approached by Beetlejuice standing on a podium taunting guests.
Yes, sir. Come on down. I gotta tell you, I'll do anything.
Multiple ramps in a zigzag formation guide guests to the black and white spiraling revolving tunnel. Side note, these styles of rooms have to be my all-time least favorite haunted house feature. I'm definitely the type that has to hold on to the railings and look down because these make me super sick. Please tell me I'm not alone. Anyway, once guests make it through the tunnel, Juno pops out at them and they are required to walk through a hallway with multiple irregularly shaped doors, which leads into the Netherworld waiting room, filled with ghosts from the movie waiting to be seen. After exiting the waiting room, guests would then see a long hallway illusion followed by a jump scare from one of the dead football players and the janitor. This would then carry on to the next area with a narrow hallway filled with different shaped doors guiding guests into the attic. Once in the attic, guests walk by Adam's model of Winter River. I just have to say, I know Beetlejuice was made first, but the model town aspect of this movie and house reminds me so much of the Goosebumps episode Chillology. You cannot tell me that the premise of getting sucked into a model town was not based on Beetlejuice. Alright, back to the house. After passing the model, guests watch the Beetlejuice advertisement and then they are approached by Lydia Deets, which is a major plot point that I skipped in the What is the Beetlejuice movie part of this video. Sorry, I know, pitchforks down. Lydia is the first person to see the Maitlands and is the person Beetlejuice wants to marry. Yes, I know, it's very creepy. Back to the house. After running into Lydia, guests are transformed into the model. When entering the model, Beetlejuice pops out next to his grave, initiating his services. A few feet later, Beetlejuice jumps out again, calling the guests a bunch of losers, and again for the third time in a spiked outfit, all before entering Dante's Inferno room, which is honestly a filler room. We only see Beetlejuice as a silhouette, and one of the Inferno girls popping out as guests walk by. The following room features Delia Dietz, sculptures, and a jump scare from Barbara in her distorted form. This room is pretty short and leads into the dinner scene. Not much happens in the room outside of the dinner scene song, Day-O, the Banana Boat song by Harry Belafonte, which is playing from the movie. When exiting the dining room, guests are encountered by Beetlejuice's snakehead that pops out at them, followed by Adam in his distorted form. When approaching the carnival room, guests would see a decayed Barbara in her wedding dress, then Beetlejuice in his carnival form. Seconds later, Otho would jump out at guests and scare them. The house ends with the wedding scene where guests see Beetlejuice and Lydia in their wedding outfits. Still very creepy. We then see Barbara jump out with her mouth zipped shut, similar to the movie. We finally see Beetlejuice one last time and the house ends. Out of the 10 houses Halloween Horror Nights 30 had, Beetlejuice by far was the best in my opinion, which is odd because I tend to prefer non-fun houses. For example, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from the same year. But when looking back at HHN 30, the only house I remember wanting to go through multiple times was Beetlejuice, mainly for the music. The main title song for the film is a classic, which is at the beginning of the house. Not to mention, including the iconic dinner scene with the Day-O song was also incredible. I know this is an unpopular opinion, but I found a lot of the Halloween Horror Nights 30 houses to be just okay at best, nothing special. This contrasts what I was hearing from people. A lot of people said they enjoyed Halloween Horror Nights 30. However, I do think there was a bit of not being able to do it the prior year, which led people to be overhyped on 2021's event. And at the same time, I could have just been overestimating things when I should have dialed stuff back with everything going on in the world at the time. Do I believe that Beetlejuice is the best Halloween Horror Nights house I've ever stepped into? Absolutely not. However, in a vacuum of 2020 and 2021 houses, I do believe that it's 100% at the top of the list, at least for me. My only complaint that I have with this house is the spacing of the scare actors. This is really nitpicky though. You have some rooms with 0 scare actors, contrasted by seeing Beetlejuice 3 times in a row in different parts of the film after entering the town model. I don't think this is really a bad thing per se, but it's just an observation I had.
Here's a preview. Be warned, it's intense.
872 days after the final night of the Beetlejuice house at Halloween Horror Nights 30, Warner Bros. Pictures released a trailer for the sequel to Beetlejuice titled Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. Yes, that's the actual name of the movie, and I'm actually all in for it. And it kind of implies that there could be a third movie, because you have to say Beetlejuice 3 times in order for him to appear anyway. I don't think we'll see anything regarding Beetlejuice at Halloween Horror Nights 2024, but it's not impossible. Last year, The Exorcist Believer house opened at Orlando a month before the movie even released to theaters. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of haunted houses based on unreleased movies, but in the case of Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, the house to movie gap would only be about a week, so this could theoretically work. If you've enjoyed this video, the smart people over at YouTube have pre-selected the next best video for you here.